Why, hello everyone. How's it going? It's kind of late on Friday night, the 4th. We've got the coffee out even after 10 p.m. Why do I have coffee out? Because I have a hockey game I'm playing in. It's old man men's beer league hockey. It starts at 11:55 p.m. So I figured I'd get this video done before that game happens and I go play some hockey. So we're going to talk about hockey for the day. We're going to talk about hockey tomorrow, enormous slate. And we're going to talk about the games in progress. A lot of NBA is in progress right now. And we're really going to have a discussion about the injury report because it turns out that NBA is very, very, very dependent on key players being injured or not. So we're going to have a discussion about that before this video is over. So let's talk about hockey today. It was a really short schedule here on Friday, just two games. And of those two games, we went 1-1. Buffalo does not win. They started off strong. They were actually up in this game in the first period a couple times, but Carolina too strong. Sebastian Aho, great player, and Craig Anderson plays a little bit more down to his rating, cools off. Buffalo cools off a little bit in this game here, and Carolina, after a nice win against Tampa Bay at overtime, they do win this game. This other game, Colorado game, the reason why it was at 2 p.m. is because it's in Finland. There's another game tomorrow in Finland. So hockey's a split day where our underdog loses in Buffalo, but it's hockey and it happens. Next, tomorrow, being Saturday, so many games. We have the goaltenders here. These are not necessarily the expected goaltenders. These are the goalies that I would say are the best goalies on each team, actually, is the way I sorted this. So this is kind of a best case scenario where we're not going to spill the coffee. I almost spill coffee every time I do videos. We're not going to spill coffee here. We're on carpet here. We're not spilling coffee. So we're going to put the coffee off to the side. So the goaltenders that we have here are kind of best case scenarios. Like I would agree that Ville Husso is the better goaltender on Detroit. Sorokin, better goaltender on the Islanders, stuff like that. So let's just glance at this, even though we know we're going to get final goaltenders tomorrow. Vegas, number one pick over Montreal. Vegas playing great, great, great hockey along with Boston. They're number one. Number two is Boston against Toronto. Boston at plus 110. Toronto gets a lot of hometown money. So there's your big underdog of the day is Boston again at plus 110. They are playing unbelievable. They have not lost a game, I believe, in their last 15. Yeah, they've not lost a game, I believe, in their last 15. They lost one all season, right? What's the standing say on them? They're 10-1 and 0. Wow. Looking good. All right. So that's pick number two. Pick number three, New Jersey. A team comes back and beats Edmonton the other night against, look at, the Calgary Flames not playing excellent hockey the last couple of weeks. Plus 145 for New Jersey. How about that? Fourth pick of the day, Seattle over Pittsburgh in a high scoring game. Seattle, they are winning some games. They came back. Look at how Pittsburgh has just fallen off the wagon the last 2 weeks, only winning 13% of their games. So there's that. Fifth pick of the day, all the way up here, is the Islanders over Detroit. Says they can score on Ville Husso. Sixth pick, Colorado over Columbus in Finland, I believe. I don't think this other game's in Finland. I think it's just this Colorado Columbus game's in Finland. I like that they're going to different countries. I think that's a cool thing for the NHL to do. Washington at home against Arizona, 7 o'clock game. This is the crazy thing. When you're a hockey player, hockey parent, you cannot sleep because your men's league game is at 11 something at night. And then you have to get up, take your kid to play at 6 or 7 a.m. the next day on the weekend. I cannot take my kid to this game, even though we'd like to see the Caps obviously probably beat Arizona and play a goalie we like in Karel Vejmelka. But that's not going to be too late. So Washington, seventh pick of the day, and eighth, Buffalo again playing a back-to-back game tomorrow against Tampa Bay. Wow. Says they crush it too, but we need to get the next day stats in here. So we'll wait to talk about these other games and get access to the Google Sheet if you want to really check this stuff out when we have goaltenders confirmed, because it's probably not going to be Anderson. It's going to be their goalie, and also Buffalo, back-to-back game just coming off a loss. So that's hockey. Now let's talk about some NBA real fast. And we have, wow, the Chicago-Boston game is really close right now. I thought it would be over, but it's a 2-point game. So we'll talk about, even though most of these games are not done, we can talk about some things like this, like health. So this is extremely important. And it makes I'm glad that we're kind of doing this dry run here with NBA right now, because college basketball, which I believe starts on Tuesday, and there's 100 something games I found, 120 something games I think I found already on Tuesday. I'm going to be tracking injuries for college basketball as well as we're tracking them for NBA. And it's making me realize we have to figure this into the score somehow, because I can't just give you a look that says, it says this right here, like Charlotte's supposed to beat Memphis, except Charlotte's only at 76% health. Or Miami's supposed to beat Indiana, but Miami's at 63% health. That means that a third of their team is not playing. Who are those players? Well, what I do is I list out in the Google Sheet, I list the injury pivot table and the injury report. So you can scroll down and see, when there's a team that's extremely injured, like the Heat were and the Sixers were, you can just go in here. You can actually just click on the team and it'll show you who those injuries were as of, like 5 or 6 p.m. or whatever when I ran this injury report. So with Miami, it was Bam Adebayo was game time, and he's a big player. I don't know if he played or not. Jimmy Butler is out. Nikola Djokovic out. These are big players. Certainly Jimmy Butler is. So it showed you that there was serious people out. Now, when you're going to have these people out, well, what do we do? Because we need to get a good projection. We can't just say, oh, they're really hurting, so they're not going to win. We have to know how much they're hurting and how much that's going to affect the score. Right now, it's not affecting the projected scores at all. It's just saying, oh, 63% of their team is only there. And the score would be 114, 112 if the 100% of their teams, both these teams were playing, 100% Miami, 100% Indiana. So what I tried to do to try to account for this, and I've been working on it, but it's not done yet, which is I'm working on a health score, which takes into account the team's health and the opponent's team's health when coming out with projections. And what it did is it really widened like the New Orleans and Golden State Warriors game, because the Warriors have Steph Curry, a bunch of other people out, but it's not there yet. So it's something I want to work on, so that we can have at least a range of scores. Actually, that's what we'll do. We'll make this a range so that we know how bad things can get with the number of injuries that a team has. Because what happened was, for example, this game was minus 175 earlier before they announced all the injuries on the Warriors. And then the line moved to minus 520 and went from 3.5, 4.5 points to 10 or 11. It's crazy. So that's because all these people were out. So, I mean, New Orleans losing this game does not seem like something that should happen based on how many people are out. Now, we're looking at the 4th. We're looking at the day. A lot of things going on. Looks like Boston is going to beat Chicago here. They're up by 5. So let's put that in there. It's 115, 120. And Memphis is getting absolutely running over Charlotte with 4 minutes left, because Charlotte had injuries as well right here. So let's take a look at this. So it looks like a bunch of losses, but at the same time, not to take a team that's got no health. This one. And these games also below 10% margin games. So below 10% margin games are supposed to be toss-ups anyway. So you would not take a favorite with no health when it's a toss-up game. I hope we've communicated that as we review the sport every day. So I'm not concerned about losing this Miami game. I'm not concerned about losing the Sixers game. I actually bet the Knicks and won. I am concerned about losing the Wizards game because they were healthier and they were above 10% margin. And I took them and they lost. So I don't get this. Brooklyn, the Kyrie Irving situation, the internal strife with suspensions and whatever. That is actually maybe, sometimes when you sit the guy, after you sit the guy, the rest of the team could just go out and play. So maybe that's what happened tonight, is a new player or two, whatever, came out and somebody stepped up. And so that could be a reason. The Charlotte game, super injured, not terribly terrible, but injured, big guys out. Don't like this up here, but at least it was a 4% margin. What else? Bulls losing down here, but also injured against the Celtics. I would have said take them plus 7.5, which it looks like they're covering. It's actually 117, 120 now. It's not over yet. So it looks like they're covering that at least. But these games down here, below 10% margin games, they're tough games. You're going to win half of them, lose half of them. What about above that, though? New Orleans is not, they're just barely beating Golden State. So they're not running away with it. Dallas is beating Toronto, which is where? That we have Toronto on here. Dallas is beating them by about 8 in the third quarter. And then Clippers are coming back and now taking the lead over San Antonio, which San Antonio would be that one you'd think would come back when they've been leading some of this game. So we really still have to wait to see what happens on these late games, because most of these late games are the ones that are above 10% margin. And the Jazz, especially healthy Jazz, underdog Jazz, that's the pick of the day. I have them. That's my straight bet of the day on basketball. So the Jazz. So a lot of things riding on that game to see if the Lakers injuries, if LeBron's actually playing, or if he does, if he's not 100%. So looking like a weird day in basketball. I wanted to look at the last season's projections, not just the current season, to see if anything was better. And it does look better. It really does look better. But and you have this injury here. Actually, it looks a lot better. Darn. I always want to say I want to dump last season's stats and not use them. And then I start to see stuff like this. You got 48% injury here, so that doesn't really count. But you get it right. You get the Celtics over the Bulls. That's finishing, it looks like 119, 122 almost. You get the Nets over the Wizards in this version, even though they're injured. You get the Grizzlies over the Hornets, all above 10% margin. So not time to throw the last season out with the bathwater yet, apparently. But notice it does have the Jazz up here too. So that's another reason why I said the Jazz are the pick of the day, because they're on both sheets and they're above 10% margin and they're an underdog. It's a hat trick of things. So if they lose, they lose, but that is the pick of the day. Let's talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow being Saturday. There are a few games. We do not have lines for many of them. And of course, injury reports not current yet, because it's not even tomorrow yet. But just to glance at what we have, 4 games above 10% margin. Celtics over the Knicks. Both these teams had been healthy, yeah. Timberwolves hurting against Rockets hurting, but this probably be a bad line already. And then Sacramento over Orlando at a 7% margin. But this is last year's version. Let's look at current, because I love how it changes. Now we're going to see current. Current, it has similar, except the Boston game moves way down here at almost no margin. Don't have a line on the Houston game yet, and Hornets and the Nets. I'm not liking this, the way the Hornets are injured and playing, and the Nets beating the Wizards tonight. I don't like this right here. But all right, so that's the glance. I need to get ready to go play a hockey game that technically starts on Friday night, even though 95% of the game is being played on Saturday when all these games are happening. So hopefully I'll score some goals tonight. Hopefully you won some picks today. Tough because Buffalo didn't cover anything. And NBA, we still have a lot left on the table with the Jazz. Oops. Anything good else I want to talk about with NBA today? I mean, Cleveland covered right at the top. So that's kind of good, even though they were injured. So it didn't necessarily say they were going to do that if you look at injuries, but they did. And yeah, just a lot of these games still going, and just we need to talk about injuries. We need to work them into the score. That will be a task. We'll be putting a range of scores related to injuries, and I think that not only do you have to incorporate the injury, but to do this appropriately, these players, they play certain positions, right? And I don't know too much about basketball positioning and playing because I'm not a basketball player, but I do think that if you're missing a defensive player, that might increase the opponent's score more. And if you're missing an offensive guy on your team, it might reduce your score more. And I think that that's probably the way I would want to program these injuries. I would say that they are a defensive injury or an offensive injury, and I'll total them up and I'll use them in this P-Health formula to both increase or decrease the team score of reference you're talking about, and then also potentially increase the opponent score if you are missing your own defensive players. That's how I'll do that. So if the team's got a defensive player out, like say the Sixers had a defensive guard out, that's good. Then they played the who'd they play? They played what game am I looking at? Yeah, here. They played the Knicks and they barely lost. So if they'd had it, say this game was supposed to be them winning 113-12, but with the injuries that they had, because they were at 62% injured, right? Who were those injuries? Let's see if we can figure this out. So on the Sixers, the injuries were, so exactly what I'm talking about. Now, just really thinking it through. This is exactly what I'm going to do in the formula before tomorrow. I think I can do that. So these positions, if I double click, I might get a position. He's a forward. Okay, cool. I do have positions in here. Perfect. So what we're going to do is we are going to, oh, I love it. Watch this. So we'll open up the field list. We'll grab position and we'll throw it under injury status. And what that's going to do is it's going to say, all right, of the people that were game time decisions, which are these guys, there was a center and a forward that were game time decisions. They add up to these percentages. I consider centers and forwards offensive players. So what that would do is that would take Philadelphia's projected score, all right, of 113, and it would reduce it by some factor of those guys' percentages. So it's going to say that their scoring is going to be reduced because those guys are out, and we'll bring it down. Maybe it won't bring it all the way down to 104 like you're seeing right here, but it'll bring it down by some impact. The other thing we would look at is because they're not missing any defensive guys, it's not going to affect the Knicks score at all, the guys that Philly is missing because they're not missing defensive guys, although I didn't look to see if they're missing guys that are out. Out is a guard. That's a defensive position, and that's James Harden. He's a really good player. So that would increase the Knicks points because he's a guard and I believe he's defensive. I got to get my position straight. I'm sure you guys can correct me and let me know which positions are more defensive and more offensive, because I know everybody shoots and everybody plays defense, but I'm sure that there's something to do there. So we'll do that, and then we would look and say, well, what were the Knicks injuries? And the Knicks injuries had everybody playing, so it wouldn't have touched their score at all. So what ended up happening there, and you can shrink this down so everything will work again. Yeah, this is going to be cool. It's going to work. So yeah, what that would have done is it would have brought Philadelphia's score down, and it would have essentially bumped the Knicks up just a tiny bit. So you would have had a projected score of something like this, probably like 115 to 108. It's probably something that I think I would have had to try to make it do with those injuries that were game time decisions and out people. And you end up getting a game where Philadelphia does score less. They only put up 104, and the Knicks don't put up as much as they could because Philadelphia was trying harder because they didn't have enough scoring there. So they tried to play a little better defense. They held the Knicks only 106, and the Knicks win a close game. That makes a lot of sense. I'm excited to do that. So I will start messing around with these guys and applying positions, and then we will. Yeah, well, I think we have to use this P health score tomorrow, guys. You guys are gonna kill me if the P health score sucks and it screws everything up, but we're gonna try it. I'm gonna try using a P health score based on those formulas instead of this score. The projected score now is going to become the P health score. I think it's appropriate because otherwise you're going to end up having this stuff show up with Miami being favored to win when the algorithm's not really favoring Miami to win. Look at the Miami Indiana game with the P health score. Where is it? Right here. It had Miami 114, 112. No, it doesn't. It has Indiana 119 to 107 with the bad P health score that I had already done, not the new one that I'm going to do. It's going to be better. So that's the plan for tomorrow. All right. So after I play hockey tonight, try to work on that. All right. Good luck, everyone. I hope your picks won tonight. And let's go Utah Jazz, and may all your picks be winning. See ya.